inside the jasper walls. Lord, I want to lay down in your cool meadow and watch angels fly over me. We're going to try to blend two systems here, Lord. They hooked me up to this, tricking me, telling me it was to record what I'm going to say so you could put it on the website, but I know they've got it hooked up to a cattle prod so that if I go too long, they're going to buzz me one time. But that's okay. I have eat with pigs. It will take a lot of buzzing to shut me up. Yeah, I've already told you, and I tell you what I'm going to try to do this morning. I lay a little background of my life just simply so you can lay hold of the faith of the amazing thing that God's going to do in your life this morning. But I'm going to spend hopefully less time on the bad and the sad part, and I'd like to give a whole lot of time to the good and to the victorious part. Because I stand here and tell you this morning that I truly believe I'm the most blessed person on the face of the earth. I wouldn't trade my life for anybody I have ever met. And because of the opportunity to be here this morning, if I had to do it, you'll think I'm lying when you hear the story. But I'd go all the way back to the beginning when I was just a little boy, and I'd sign up for every bit of it all over again. Because without it, and had I not been through what I've been through, and had I not been able to see the merciful grace of God and His love and His miracles, His forgiveness, His teaching of forgiveness to me, I wouldn't be here this morning. You wouldn't be sitting there. But the part you don't know yet that I already know because God is so faithful, miracles will happen here in just a few moments in the lives of many of you people sitting here. You thought you came to see the goofy-looking guy with his hair sticking up in the air that came from Atlanta to talk to us, and I've heard a little about his story, and some of you don't know anything about it. I was born in 1954, so it was unique for me this past year. On December the 28th, I turned 54. So that's the one time in my life that path is going to cross. 1954, I was born, and I turned 54 this past year. I told them at China Grove last week that I'm marching toward 55 at the end of this year, where I will qualify for my senior citizens coffee at McDonald's. And I'm praying to God I can hold it together long enough that somebody will want to see my ID before they'll let me have that coffee. But the way things have been going downhill, that is not a high possibility. They'll probably just hand it to me and say, "Okay, Grandpa, get on out of the way." But don't think I'm too proud to ask for it. I'm looking forward to it. Lynn, would you stand up? This is my wife. This year, Lynn and I will have been married 37 years. Our oldest son, Sean, all of our sons and their wives live in Atlanta. Our oldest son, Sean's about to be 36, and our middle son, Michael, is 32. Jared's about to turn 28. They're all three married to beautiful daughters of mine, and it's not a Alabama hillbilly, go marry your sister kind of thing. I don't like the term daughter-in-law. I told my boys, when you bring those young ladies into my life, they're my daughters from now until I stand inside of those jasper walls with them. And I said, if you boys get a wild hair down the road and decide you're going to trade one of these lovely daughters of mine in on a younger model, or you decide you can't get along and you divorce, don't you be surprised when you get to my house on Thanksgiving with a new model and the old model has her feet up under my table. Don't get shocked because they're my daughters. And I said, I'm going to tell you something else, boys. I love you with all of my heart. I adore you, what you've given to my life. Most of you men in here, some of you can comprehend it, but a lot of people can't comprehend what those boys have always meant to me, because through them, God gave me something that I never knew as a little boy. It's been the most wonderful thing. to experience. I love being a dad. I wrote in my autobiography about those boys that when I pass away, I hope what they put on my tombstone is, here lies the man that Sean, Michael, and Jared called Dad. That's the greatest legacy I can leave behind. What a wonderful thing. How wonderfully God showed me that he loved me when he trusted me with those little boys that have grown into be such good men. But I told them, if you can't get along with your wife at some point, don't come to me whining and saying, well, Dad, Annie just does such and such, and Amy does such and such, and she won't do this, and I this, and I, yeah. I said, you better get on your knees and pray through this thing, because if you're asking me to take sides, she's the weaker vessel. I'll take her side over yours every time. So it ain't a good thing for you to come to Papa and just because y'all are the apple of Daddy's eye, think I'm going to say, well, boy, I wouldn't put up with that. I'd straighten that gal out right there, you know. All of you know what it is in families sometimes, that blood is everything, and you got your in-laws and your outlaws, and you got the bloodline, and everybody else is way down on the totem pole. I believe that God's forgiveness and his love tells us that we are to reach out with the love of a father. And that love passes our bloodline. You know, it's amazing that a young country music star that I think an awful lot of was raised part of his life just down the road in Gastonia. His name is Jimmy Wayne. Have y'all ever heard of him? Many of you in the room heard of him? I love this young man. I love his music. He's a Christian boy, and he went through an awful lot of similar things that I did. And I love his song where, you know, he talks about his dad. He wondered if his dad would ever love him. And the chorus of the song shows him with his arms outstretched when he says, God says, I love you this much. And I'm waiting on you to decide, do you love me too? God is waiting on us this morning to decide, do you really love me the same way that I loved you, and that is with an open arm? I look past the worst of you and I see what you can be. Life went downhill for me at 5 years old. From the time I was 5 years old, the age of some of these little kids in this room, my dad saw to it, and the enemy saw to it through his hand, that a door was going to be opened that would ensure I'd never be here today. That you'd never have the opportunity to experience what God is going to do for you in a few moments. He knew that if I can't defeat this young child here, if he ever latches hold of this father, this real father in his life, God will do things in his heart, and he'll be just ignorant and bold and strong enough that and not embarrassed at all, that he'll stand up there one morning and share his story, and hearts that I've had bound for years will find freedom if I don't derail him here. And here was his door, and here's how he started it. My dad was a builder. We lived right near my grandfather's cotton farm. And my dad also had a garage out back of our house that he built custom cabinets in. He was a heavy drinker, and I never knew it. When you're 5 years old, you don't know those things. He was out there building something in the garage on this particular summer afternoon, and I had on some little red cut-off shorts, no shirt, no shoes. Matter of fact, a little clip you saw of what's supposed to be an adult Danny walking, and which was actually my oldest son who walked through that door there. That's not an actual trailer of the movie. It's just a promotional teaser. Supposedly Harry Connick Jr. is going to play me in the movie. But anyway, when you see him come through the door and he's thinking back and he sees the little blocks in the floor there at the foot of the table saw, my dad was building something, sawdust on the floor, and as often times I would just be a nuisance and out there playing and stacking up the blocks and building little castles. I've said many times I don't know what prompted it. I have no idea. If I knew, and what I tried to figure out for years to come is if I can figure out what prompted what was about to come, maybe I could fix it, and maybe my dad would love me. But with his fist doubled up, and him a big strong man, I remember out of nowhere and not expecting it, while playing with those blocks, he struck me in the side of the face. And I went sliding across the sawdust floor. My head hit a cabinet in the corner where he stored his pornography, his reel-to-reel films, his books, his Polaroid pictures that he had